Hey, Mortgage Coach community, Dave Savage, and I am doing a very interesting interview today. I met today's guest, Natalie Riso. I met you, what was it, about last week or was it the week before at Social Survey?
I think it may have been the week before, but time flies.
Time definitely flies. So guys, Natalie killed it. She was a speaker at the Social Survey event. It was a great event. I mean, they had a lot of great speakers, a lot of great sessions. And your session was, what was the title of it? Something with LinkedIn in it?
Yeah, I think it was basically building a corporate and personal brand on LinkedIn.
Yeah, building a corporate and personal brand on LinkedIn. And I just had to interview Natalie for the Mortgage Coach community because I passionately believe that if every referral-based local loan officer that wants to crush it in their local market, you should be intentional with your LinkedIn profile. So Natalie, if you're cool with it, let's try to focus this on personal profiles. Let's forget about advice on corporate pages, and let's just talk about that if you don't mind.
Yeah.
And then if you want to, I know you are a social media manager. Why don't you tell everybody what you're doing right now, just so they kind of know who you are?
Yeah, sure. So in terms of the LinkedIn stuff, do you want me to go into that, or we'll go into it further later?
However you want to tell your story. Like, what are you doing today? I will assure you, I will make sure they know your LinkedIn story.
So in terms of how I got to where I am today, about 4 years or so ago, I started writing on LinkedIn and building a personal profile. Today I stand with about 400,000 followers on my personal LinkedIn profile page. I also have 3 LinkedIn Top Voice Awards, basically this award that LinkedIn gives to its top contributors and the people who create the most conversations on the platform. So a lot of that's based off of engagement rates and stuff like that. In terms of my day-to-day, so now I actually head up content at 500 Startups, which is a global venture capital firm based out of San Francisco. I'm relatively new to my job, but I definitely enjoy it and I love working with the entrepreneurs. And before then, I was also working in the entertainment industry, heading up content for B2B brands.
Boom. So did you guys hear 400,000 followers on LinkedIn, and she did it while going to college? I mean, that's kind of mind-bending to me. So let's just tell your story a little bit, and then we'll connect it to mortgage professionals. How did you do that? Why did you do it, and how did you do it?
So I kind of fell into it. It wasn't something that I was super intentional about in the beginning. So in the beginning, the age-old tale is I was actually an intern and I was ghostwriting for the CEO at the time for one of my internships in college. And a couple of the articles that she wasn't really feeling, she was like, you could post them on LinkedIn. LinkedIn had just bought Pulse, which now is LinkedIn Publishing. So that's what allows you to write articles on your profile. So that was kind of a new feature. We didn't necessarily know if it was worth investing time into. And so I started to post these articles onto my personal profile. And to give you an idea of numbers, I had maybe 200 connections. Basically what happened was I wrote one article called How I Overcame My Lack of Work Experience. And it met people where they were on the platform. People were looking for jobs. It's what LinkedIn was at the time. And so it went semi-viral for what viral was at the time. And I was contacted by some LinkedIn editors that were like, hey, we really like this piece. Clearly, you kind of know how to talk to the audience. We would love to see you do it a bit more. Continued writing. I actually joined LinkedIn as a campus editor at one point where I was editing articles of the students at my university. I went to University of Southern California if people are interested. And then it really started to grow exponentially from there. So when I graduated, I actually graduated last year as the most followed student on LinkedIn with about 250,000 followers. And, kind of understating numbers, it really grew exponentially from there to get to 400,000 today. But I think a lot of it was kind of based around giving people information that they were actually looking for on LinkedIn, and then also finding the white spaces on LinkedIn. So I talked a lot about female entrepreneurship. I talked and continue to talk a lot about mental health. As well as content strategies as I've sort of built up my expertise.
Well, I mean, that is a really cool story. And I hope anybody, listen to this, it's inspirational that someone in college could build that type of a following. It just speaks to, if you have the right content, with the right market, viral big things can happen. So congrats to you. And
Thank you.
you're also a really good public speaker. She did a great job giving us, I'd say it's kind of like 101, not taking anything away from the value, but I mean, it was kind of like LinkedIn 101. I got some reminders, I got some takeaways. So anybody that's listening to this, if you do have a sales rally coming up and you want to have someone talk about how to crush it with LinkedIn, Natalie's your girl. You give her a call.
I appreciate that.
How can people reach out to you if they did want to connect with you after this?
Yeah, so they
LinkedIn?
can message me on LinkedIn. They can also email me at natalie.riso@500startups.com.
So we'll have some links down below. Check that out. So let's start taking this to a referral-based loan officer. And I don't know how much research you've done on Mortgage Coach, but we've got, let's just say 12,000 paid members that pay for our technology. But then we've probably got like 40,000 loan officers that follow us, whether it's our YouTube channel or our Facebook group. And they, they're local, they are not call center loan officers. They're trying to own a local market. For the most part, they're using Facebook and Instagram. And I would say Facebook. I mean, Facebook is the social media platform of our industry. Most of them have a LinkedIn profile, but it's not like a business generating, community building, biz dev platform. So first of all, I think it should be. Like, I think they should have that intention. What do you think? And why?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm going to answer yes. I think it would be strange if I answered no. But I think there's two main reasons. The first is more in a sense of like holistically who you are as a brand and why people go to you. So if you're ever, if anybody ever Google searches your name, if anybody tries to actually do research on you, especially if you're trying to create leads on social media or on the internet, the first thing people are going to do is probably Google you. And since it's a more professional transaction, if you have a great professional LinkedIn that showcases how people can reach you, what they can reach out to you for, and also your expertise, that's going to be way more beneficial for somebody as a resource than say your Facebook. On Facebook, you're just not able to showcase basically your resume in the same kind of way as you can on LinkedIn. So that's kind of the first, like on a basic level, why you need to have a great profile. In terms of actually engaging with people, that's where LinkedIn has been shown to convert in terms of business transactions, especially B2B, a lot better than say a Facebook. I think the reason why we kind of go towards Facebook in a lot of professional ways, and you see this a lot with entrepreneurs as well. So entrepreneurs love Facebook groups. And it's because of this idea that you can connect with people very seamlessly, and there's this automatic sense of engagement. And what we're seeing on LinkedIn is since there's been rise in more content, especially around things like hashtags, which some people don't even know are a thing on LinkedIn, but LinkedIn's really pushing with their new algorithm. But also things like really connecting with others and then keeping track of your relationships professionally. That's where I think LinkedIn really kind of stands out among the crowd, where if you're able to give content that serves your community, you're actually able to create sort of that Facebook group, but around your own content. And so you're able to have much higher click-through rates, but also you're able to have much more conversion through that type of content.
Got it. So just summary, you need it because they're going to Google you and it's a place they're going to check you out. So be competent. That's table stakes. You could build trust and credibility quickly. Someone clicks on it and you show up well. I don't want to spend too much time on that because I do think we've checked that box in the industry. Like there are people that aren't, but I'm really here to help people that are kind of like, okay, I've checked the box. I've got a professional profile. And now how do I turn it into something more? So I want to spend most of the calls on that. But if you could just give us a quick checklist, like a minute of, okay, look at your profile and does it have blank, blank, blank? Give us a quick audit of a profile.
Yeah, I think the main things that it's very easy to fill out a profile, like in terms of adding your resume, right? So there's no real explanation you need on that. The things that people get to and they're like, I don't know what to do with this. number one is a summary. You absolutely should have a keyword optimized summary. So that's the little blurb that goes underneath like your headshot. You should have a keyword optimized, so using keywords that people are going to search for when they use LinkedIn. So if they're looking for specific types of products or services, you want to make sure you put those into your summary. Make sure your summary is first person, because that means that you will be the one answering if somebody messages you. There's an understanding of like, hey, there's a real human being behind the profile. A lot of people who talk in third person, there's an assumption that there's an assistant that actually runs their LinkedIn. So there's no point in messaging them anyways.
And time out, people that talk about themselves in the third person, it's just not cool. Like, you know, like the Dave, you know, like you just don't want to be that guy, you know, or
it
girl,
also,
you know?
it's just more welcoming too.
It connects.
Yeah. And the other 2 pointers in your summary and in your experience, feel free to use call to action. A lot of people don't. They think that it needs to be almost like a cover letter in your summary and then just, you know, copy and paste from your resume when it comes to your experience. When you can actually add calls to action in there. So saying, this is the best way to reach out to me. These are the things that I'm open to right now. I remember when I was a student, I even did this where I was like, I'm looking for these types of internships in these locations in these industries. And it let people know that I was actively looking for something on the platform. And lastly, add media to your account. So what that means is adding links underneath different types of experiences. This doesn't necessarily have to mean like, hey, I was quoted in this Inc. article. It can also be, hey, here's the website of this very small company that I worked at that maybe you don't know what it's about. So now you can kind of have a bit more color to my experience. That not only helps the person reading it to understand a bit more, but it actually helps you a lot when it comes to the algorithm of LinkedIn. So when people search you up, your profile is going to be ranked higher. So more people are going to be able to see your profile.
Okay, cool. So let's start transitioning to the local professional. I hope everybody got that, you know, search optimized. You might want to put the city or the locality, like if you were in Huntington Beach, California. Well, it's Orange County, Huntington Beach. You know, be thoughtful. Like, do you want to be looked at as a transactional loan officer? Or do you want to be looked at as a mortgage advisor, as a mortgage planner? You know, remember, this is how you're positioning yourself so that when people talk to you, you know, I'm not like every other loan officer. I was born and raised in Huntington Beach. I serve Orange County. I'm an advisor, not a transaction coordinator. You know, so think of how what's your unique value prop, and have this be the launch pad into that. So now let's talk like biz dev. So, and let's just cover like 3 categories. Loan officers want to get referrals from realtors. Loan officers want to get referrals from CPAs and financial planners. Like, those are good referral partners. And we could do a bigger list, but those are the primary lead sources of a loan officer. What are some thoughts on how, if you were like parachuted into the mortgage industry, and I know that was your first time speaking to the mortgage industry. You and I had one prep call. You're figuring this out, but I have a feeling you've got some ideas on what would they do? What would you do if you were a referral-based loan officer and you wanted to have a great page, and now you wanted to network and build community with those professions? What are some thoughts?
Yeah, I think there's 2 main categories that I would focus on. One is still on your profile, but it's a little bit different than all the rest, and that's the recommendations. So having people in your network recommend you, it helps you with the search in terms of being SEO optimized, but it also gives sort of more color to the types of people that you work with, what your network looks like. So asking for those recommendations can be really helpful. So I think that's like the easy part. In terms of the other aspect of it, I think you actually did a good job, and I don't know if you did this intentionally, of whenever I tend to think about what type of content would convert, I first look at the audience. So what type of content is that audience looking for? How do I connect with that audience better? And really be sort of the solution to some of their problems through content. I can kind of give an example more on sort of what I do on a day-to-day. So one of the audiences that I like to speak to is students because of my background. And so I will sit there and go, okay, not necessarily what do I want to tell them, but what are they looking for? I think that's a big mistake a lot of people make where they're like, I want to be known as this, I want to be known as that, let me just create the content. It's like, cool, but nobody asked for this, so no one's going to engage with it. You kind of need to figure out sort of, it's more of an art than a science of figuring out what those audiences are looking for, how you can provide it, but how you can also paint yourself in the image that you want to be online, on LinkedIn in particular. So I really start with the audience, figure out sort of their behavior. Two, a lot of these industries, you're going to have certain audiences that interact more than others on LinkedIn. So trying to do a little bit of market analysis of like who is really gung-ho on LinkedIn right now, who's kind of the easy target for my content right now, who's going to be a bit harder that maybe, you know, down the line, once I've established myself a bit more, I might be able to reach out to. I think having those goals really helps in terms of being able to convert.
Okay, and I want to close out on just some tips, some pro tips for writing content. We'll just say posts and articles. We'll get to that in a minute. In terms of like building up your people that follow you, I know that a lot of people ask to connect to me, and then they send me this spammy message. I'm going to say it, and if you could just reaffirm it, don't be a LinkedIn spammer. It's like the LinkedIn message box is like, oh, I researched you. You look like someone I want to talk to. Let me know if you have time to talk. Like, we have time to talk. So I personally don't think, like, if you want to connect with someone, just connect with them. Like, and I know that I've heard consultants always connect, and when you connect, send a message. But I think it's just become such a spam box that when you don't know someone and you're asking them to connect and you're giving this nonsense message, I don't like it. I don't know. What's your advice?
Totally. I know there's lots of softwares where you can automate messages when people connect with you and stuff.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah, it looks like spam. In fact, when I usually connect with people and they send me those messages, I usually unconnect with them. Because especially for people who are busy, they don't need another useless message. And two, there's a lot of like, there's almost this white space now of like sending an authentic message of like, if you really wanted to talk to that person, send a personalized message, because your message will stand out among all the spamming messages that they probably
Totally.
get.
Yeah. Like if there's an authentic, like you were referred, like let's say you're trying to reach out to a CPA and you're helping the Smith family, and it's real. Like, hey, Joe, I just had John and Susan Smith into my office. I wanted to connect with you, so that we could talk. That's legit. It's,
yep.
Don't go into a sales pitch. Just, so can we align on this? We're just going to connect. We're not going to pitch in LinkedIn, but we do want to build, like, if I'm a local referral-based loan officer, I want to have a lot of CPAs. I want to have a lot of financial planners, and I want to have every realtor in the market that I'm connected with in a non-creepy way. Can we align that should be a goal?
100%. Yeah. Never, ever, ever pitch in the invitation unless you're giving something away for free. So like I
still don't like doing it, but.
Well, you can if you like have an event. So that's where I kind of give a caveat of like, hey, I would love to see you at my free event. That's okay. But everything else I would say no.
Okay. So here's the other thing. Anybody listening to this, I'm looking for mortgage coach community rock stars in LinkedIn. And so if you are crushing it, you've got a great profile, at least you think you do, and you're becoming that LinkedIn digital mayor in your city, one, let me know. I want to follow you. I want to learn from you. I want to kind of shine a light on your success. Now, in our space, and I'm not going to cover this right now, LinkedIn is used a lot for recruiting, so, most of the LinkedIn activity in the mortgage space is, people that are trying to build teams that are, and I, by the way, I don't think that's bad, guys. I think it's a great idea. I've interviewed Richard Milligan a few times. I'm going to put a link down below. He is a recruiter. I think he's doing it right. He's helping mortgage professionals build this, calls it a leadership brand. Like, what's your leadership brand? And he's creating good content that amplifies the leadership brand, and I think it's effective. This call is not about recruiting in LinkedIn, which I support. This is about recruiting referral partners, and this is about helping loan officers build a leadership brand that makes you an attractive person to do business with in LinkedIn. So So with that said, Natalie, what are some do's and don'ts on your post? Like how often, what's too much, what's too little? Just, you spent like an hour and I'm going to give you like 3 minutes. And then here's one last thing and then I'll let you talk. If you really want to hear all the goods from Natalie, hire her to speak, do a workshop for your company, hire her, do a sales rally. She rocks. And she's told you how to contact down below. There'll be more links. But give us like 3, no more than 5 minutes of, here's some do's and don'ts around building a leadership brand and posting and creating content.
Sure. So the first is don't post too much. LinkedIn's one of the only social media platforms that is pretty rigorous in terms of how much you post, and they'll actually put you down in the algorithm if you post too much. So every day would actually be too many posts. I would like to say that sort of the sweet spot is anywhere between like 2 and 4 posts a week, with really like 2 to 3 posts a week is great. If you post too much, LinkedIn hates spam. Like that is like their #1 thing when I talk to the product team. So keep that in mind when you start creating content. Don't use too many hashtags. A great number of hashtags is like the 3 to 5 range. You can use specific hashtags or general hashtags. A lot of people don't use hashtags yet, so you can kind of play around with that and see what works best for your audience. So the first one being don't post too much. Second one, 3 to 5 hashtags is great. Another one is diversity in content, which is something LinkedIn likes to see. What I mean by this is the actual type of post. So are you only posting videos? Are you only posting long form text with a photo? Probably will want to diversify that. That's something that is more towards the LinkedIn algorithm, that once again, they don't like spam. So they want to see diversity in the types of content that you post. You're going to get a higher reach overall if you're able to do different types of posts. Another quick thing is to make sure that your value is within the first 3 lines. There's a YouTube term for this called above the fold, which is basically whenever they shorten your text and it says see more, anything that's above that see more is the fold. So you want to make sure that the value is above the fold. I see a lot of people who will try to do like these long stories, which is very important to tell your narrative on LinkedIn. But if your first 3 lines are, I went to the grocery store today and saw something, and there's no sense of what value am I going to get out of this post, people probably aren't going to read it. So those would probably be my like quick takeaways in terms of like basic post practices. One quick question that I always get that I like to add now, people are like, when's the best time to post? Usually mornings to like, I would say about 2 p.m., which really it's more the mornings, but I think you can kind of stretch to 2 p.m. depending on your audience. Pacific Standard Time, or whatever time zone you're in. If it's very local, during weekdays works best. Just because people are checking LinkedIn more or less either on their commutes during their lunch breaks or at work. Some people are going to have mixed feelings about them checking it at work, but that tends to be the consumer behavior. So those are the best times to post.
So 7 to 2 p.m. in your time zone, not on weekends. And so here's the deal, guys. We're going to wrap up today's interview, but I hope this is not my last interview with Natalie. But that's also going to depend on you, the community. Like, do you have questions for Natalie? I think it's a good idea for a referral-based local mortgage pro to build their leadership brand, to build community. Do you think it's a good idea? Just because I think it's a good idea doesn't mean it is. So let me know. And remember, I'm looking for some rock stars to follow. I'm hoping that I see Natalie on a few more stages in the mortgage industry. Natalie, you are an inspiration. I mean, to think that you built what you have and you're like 1 year out of college, I mean, congratulations. I think it's amazing. So thank you for making time for the community.
Thank you. I'm glad I was able to talk today.
Yeah, cool. So guys, also, if you got value from this, give us a like. If you loved it, love it. Share it with your mortgage friends. And I look forward to hearing from you guys. Take care, everybody.